Dan and Corey here, welcoming you into Libservative.
The great fundamental issue now before our people. We, the people, cannot turn back.
All right, welcome in to Libservative, the show with two intellectual idiots that will be called a fascist Nazi right-winger and a baby-killing libtard in the same breath. I feel like we're the only show on the internet that does that. He's Corey Walsh.
He is Dan Griffin, and actually, it's funny. You're right.
Is that a good explanation? It just came to me as we were going on air.
Yeah, no, that's pretty good. Like we piss off everyone because we like to add nuance to the conversation, I guess.
It hurts. We hurt people's feelings a lot. It's okay. It's not an ego
It's
thing.
not personal because we might hurt your feelings. You might skew left, but don't worry. Hang out for 15 minutes. So we're gonna make people on the right cry. It's cool.
Yeah, we're gonna shit on conservatives hard here, but first, we have to shit on liberals. Sorry. So we're saving the best for last, kids.
And before we even get started, Dan, make sure to like, follow, and subscribe to Libservative. We are found on all of your social media and podcast platforms. We are found on Facebook at Libservative. We are on Instagram and Twitch at Libservative Pod. We are on TikTok at Libservative Podcast. You can reach out to us directly at Libservative Podcast or libservativepod@gmail.com. You can read our transcripts for our monologues at libservativepod at .wordpress.com. And did I miss any of them, Dan?
I don't know, but your monologue's about mayonnaise, so that's gonna be good.
Yeah, I thought it was gonna be spicy, but it's about as spicy as mayonnaise.
Could it be spicy mayonnaise?
Do they make spicy mayonnaise?
Yeah, it's fucking delicious. You never had spicy mayonnaise, a little sriracha?
Are you the type of guy that adds raisins to the to the salad because you want to make it exceptional?
To the chicken salad? No, never raisins. Dried cranberry. Come on. What, I look like a sociopath? Just put raisins in the salad. Nobody eats raisins except old people and little children. You either have to be at the beginning of
you know what? You're not wrong because my son eats the shit out of raisins, yogurt covered raisins, but he just loves them.
But he's going to get over that soon because he will soon be out of diapers. It's my theory that you only eat raisins when you're in diapers. Beginning of life, end of life, that's it.
What about prunes?
Same deal. Unless you have trouble shitting, then you might need to eat some prunes.
That's one of my old pickup lines, Dan. Do you have any prunes? How about a date?
I didn't realize you were trying to pick up cougars of that age, Corey Walsh, but here we are.
I'm talking like, yeah. They're like, yeah, actually, I do. They're in my fridge. Keeps me regular.
So cranberry juice, so that there's no UTIs.
I've never even eaten a date. I just heard that pickup line once. And I thought it was hilarious.
Never had dates?
I've never had a date, no. I mean, I've been on dates. I've never ate a date.
Oh, I thought you were talking about dates.
You might end up on the FBI watch list if you eat a date.
That's very, very true. Yeah. Well, not anymore. It's mostly just idiot white people that end up on the FBI watch list these days. They've changed their targeting category.
No, it's the FBI that ends up on the FBI watch list.
That's right. Yes, which is mostly white guys. So my point is still made.
What's new, Dan?
I'm having myself a nice old fashioned this evening. Have you?
Nice.
How far into the bag are you? I'm like an eighth. So, in the bag.
I was sitting outside, just doing a little bit of show prep. I drank a couple of champagne and beers, and I was feeling fine. And then my third wind bottle of bourbon deceived me, Dan. And it looked like there was only a little bit left. And I was like, okay, that's one more drink. And I poured it off like a blind pour. I didn't really look. Before I knew it, there was a lot of bourbon in my glass. So I am peeking into the bag right now, but within probably 20 minutes, I'm probably going to have my whole head inside of it. And someone's going to be running up trying to pull it off so I don't suffocate myself.
I'm like an eighth. So you'll catch up.
An eighth? An eighth out of what?
Like an eighth into the bag. I measured it.
You measured the bag?
In centimeters. I'm switching to metric.
You unpatriotic son of a bitch.
Corey, your son is having some potty training adventures, and we thought it'd be really fun to, on air, impromptu, hear your story, but also compare
relate it to politics
to the U.S. government.
Can we do it?
Last.
Can we do it?
I think we could do it.
He's got a great memory, this guy.
Yeah, so we literally, so my son's 2. He's about to be 3 in a couple months. We figured it was time to potty train. So it's completely blown up in our faces.
Literally.
No, actually, thank God. Dude, that's what pisses me. Okay, side note, that's what pisses me off, Dan, is this kid knows how to hold his shit and piss. He already knows. He's just being an asshole because he's not 3. And so we were trying to get him to go into the potty and things like that. And I think he went once. But then we were doing the whole thing where it's like, nope, you just don't put any clothes on them, because then they can visually see what their body is doing, and then they can see the visualness, feel the body function, and relate the two to where they know that that's what's happening. And he peed in the potty once. My wife texted me at work. We sent each other gifs of like, all right, high fives, great, and then I got home, beautiful day out. I wanted to sit outside and drink a beer and do some yard work. And my wife came outside to sit and enjoy me, and we had our son outside, and he had to pee. And so we mistakenly said, oh, go ahead and pee in the grass. Go over there and just go take a piss in the grass. And he did. And guess what, Dan? He fucking loved it. So now, every time my son has to go pee, he wants to run outside. And so now we're combating. So what's funny is, like, by the standards of a dog, my kid's doing great.
He's housebroken.
He's housebroken. He goes outside. But the standard of a human in normal society, like, that's not, like, me personally, I've caught a case of peeing in public in the city of Detroit. So, like, I know, like, that's not acceptable, son. You can't do this. And it might be a personal PTSD trauma thing. But it's like, no, dude, you got to pee in the potty. And so now we're struggling with him wanting to run outside to pee instead of actually using the bathroom. Yeah, it's wild. And so we were trying to figure out a parable that relates to somebody doing something that they want versus somebody doing something that they know what they're supposed to do, but they're throwing that to the side because that's what they want to do. I don't know.
I'm relating CJ's urine to the U.S. budget. And about how, so CJ is the U.S. government, his P is the budget, his P is the money, and he's always putting it where it's not supposed to go. It is supposed to go. He sent $80 billion worth of P to Ukraine to fund a war that's going to get sent back to Raytheon and the rest of the military-industrial complex.
Dude.
And he could be putting it in the toilet, which is almost literally where it should be going. When you compare it to the U.S. budget and money. So that's my parable. I think I was pretty close.
That's a good one. It has to go somewhere, and he just keeps putting it in the wrong spot. That's pretty good. Yeah.
Also,
I'm actually
just keeps creating it out of thin air, which is also a lot like the United States budget.
I'm taken aback, Dan, because Ukraine wasn't one of the topics of tonight.
That's fine.
But you are absolutely right, because of the fact that this whole war of attrition that it's grinded down to over there, where it's basically trying to just wear the other person down, it becomes so completely absurd, because Ukraine is basically an independent island where they have no GDP right now. They have no economy. Everything is completely cut off. And Russia is still making billions, if not trillions, on their oil from China and India.
Yeah, and who are the sanctions hurting?
And Europe.
By the way, who are the sanctions hurting?
Right. Us,
Europe.
Yeah, everyone who's fighting this war. And, like, the only chance Ukraine has in this war.
Oh, there's also Nazis. Don't forget about the Nazis.
Oh yeah, there's the Ukraine Nazis also, that we are now allowing Nazi propaganda being sold on Amazon.
What did the Washington Post say? Are there Nazis in Ukraine? Yes, but it's complicated.
Could you imagine if that 1941 Are there Nazis in Germany? Yes, but it's complicated.
Are we funding Nazis? Yes, but it's complicated.
Because it's funny you say that too, because they say history doesn't repeat itself, but it replicates.
Always.
And we were selling a shit ton of stuff to Germany. We were selling a shit ton of stuff to Germany in World War II before we got involved. So it's really funny you say that. Actually, like, the audience might not find humor in that, but me, as someone who likes to look at history, that made me smile.
You have to find humor in that. This show's about us, Corey. Fuck the audience. I'm just kidding. We love you guys.
7 of them.
Yeah, I think we're up to about 18 now. I think we're doing nicely. Was that a good parable comparing your son's urine to the U.S. government spending?
If I had 20 minutes to decipher it and try to break it down, I could probably find flaws in it. But
we'll come back
in this moment. That is absolutely phenomenal. That like it had to go somewhere, and he just keeps continually pushing it in the wrong place, knowing it's supposed to go somewhere else.
What's a great segue here is that you are trying to prohibit your son from urinating outside, while the FDA is trying to prohibit vapes from getting into the hands of American people. This is called Prohibition. It does not work. Oh, we forgot the first banner. I'm upset about that. We should let the people see it first. The U.S. government needs real potty training. Anyway, on to the next topic. So,
also, real quick, I'm trying to make it a habit of between segues, we read some of the comments and stuff like that. And Brighten Eyes, the most loyal fan we have, is here, and I just wanted to give him a shout out. That's all.
Yeah, nothing else out there. Thanks for staying.
Everyone, would you say stay home, stay safe? Is that what you said?
Thanks for staying loyal.
Thanks for doing the minimum of just showing up.
Yeah. The FDA banning Juul, which makes no sense to me because Juul has been like the only like vape company that's at least. I still don't agree with them doing this, but they like removed all their flavors and stuff. Like literally all you can get is like a tobacco flavor and like mint or menthol or something. I don't know. I stopped using it.
For some reason, Juul has been the bullseye for this whole anti-vape movement.
And we'll talk about it in a second, but Corey's got the numbers because this is ridiculous because this whole prohibition has failed before it's even taken place. And you also have the Biden administration mentioning, I can't remember what I read. It's pretty easy to find, but I'm paraphrasing here. So the Biden administration is supposedly trying to maximize the amount of nicotine in tobacco products, including vapes. So I look at that and I go, okay.
Wait, did you say maximize?
Did I say maximize? I meant minimize. Oh yeah, that's what I mean. There's supposed to be like a maximum amount of nicotine that these companies can put in these products, right? So I really worded that poorly. But what that tells me is that is going to have the exact opposite effect of what they want, which is to get people to stop smoking. The rationale behind this is that it's supposed to make these products, quote unquote, less addictive. But you and I both know cigarette smokers, Corey. You and I were both cigarette smokers at one point in our lives.
I smoked cigarettes for 10 years from 16 to 26.
And
then guess what got me off of smoking a very shitty, terrible thing to go into something that was less detrimental to my health?
Your vaporizer?
It was my vapes.
So here's what's stupid about that. You're trying
Side note, that's anecdotal evidence, but
you're trying to get people. I've got the same thing, man. I felt a million times better when I vaped than when I smoked. But what makes this stupid to me is, as people who used to smoke cigarettes, we know people who still smoke cigarettes. If you cut the amount of nicotine in a cigarette in half, what do you think that smoker's going to do?
Smoke 2 cigarettes.
He's going to pull out another cigarette. So you're talking about
because it's a chemical compound.
Smoke more.
Yeah, exactly. Because it's a chemical compound that your body is building its own tolerance up to where it's like if you cut this arbitrary number of how much nicotine, whatever, an individual is still going to try to hit their whatever their body is telling them they need. Like, okay, we can get into conversations about whether or not that nicotine is a crutch. Sure. Do I wish I vaped? No, it's a crutch. I'll admit it. But everyone else has crutches too. And so, like, it doesn't matter what the crutch is. But, like, we're just going to minimize it to have it to where it's half the amount that it's supposed to be. The person's just going to do double.
That'll show them.
You know what I mean? And then, like, yeah, it's just.
It's like that alcoholic who like drinks a lot of hard liquor and then like switches to beer,
but then drinks 3 times as much beer as the average human.
A whole case of beer instead of a fifth of whiskey and all. Oh, it's better.
They still get drunk. They're just getting fatter. Yeah, exactly.
Drinking just as much booze, just consuming more of it to get to the point where they want to be. It's the dumbest thing I've heard in weeks, in days, definitely days, since Biden fell off his bike.
Ow. Dude. So how did that news, so side note, how did the news of Biden falling off his bike get broken to you? Was it just an article on his feed?
No, you told me.
Oh, was I the one that told you?
Yeah, exactly. I was just
okay. So I think that
Barry Weiss or some shit on my podcast apps.
So yeah. So it's really funny that that like when George Bush choked on a pretzel, it was news all over the place. Obama, I don't think actually Obama like had pretty good agility. I don't think
he's an athlete, man. You ever watch that man play hoops?
That's saying like he was quick on his feet. Like he was
is it racist
when it came to his like
black president like to play hoops? Am I allowed to say that?
What'd you say?
Is it racist for me to say that a black president liked to play hoops? Is that somehow a bad thing for me to say?
No. If we took that out of context and I took a soundbite of you saying that alone, it might sound bad. But then you could put this to me saying like, oh wow. The only president that put in a basketball hoop at the White House was Obama. Without naming race. He just happened to be into basketball, not even naming race. It sounds way less.
Listen to the two white guys talk about a black president playing basketball. This is going to go a place.
It's great. And I even love basketball. Like, I don't give a shit if you win it back. Like, it's just.
I have black friends.
Dude, so did you listen to the recent Fifth Element the recent Fifth Element podcast, and they were talking about that.
Fifth Column, you mean?
And the Fifth Column, yeah. And yeah, exactly.
Not the Bruce Willis movie.
They talk about how like there's this weird conundrum in our country to where it's like if you say I have black friends, you're racist. But on the other end of it is if you say I don't see color, you're also racist.
What if you say I don't have any black friends?
You sound super racist.
So there's like no winning in that situation.
And that's what they were kind of getting at. So they're like, it's kind of funny how like the spectrum of it goes like super like when someone's trying to defend their own self, they say that they're not racist. They say, well, I have black friends. And then the opposite of it is like the old person who tries to say they're not racist, and they go, well, I don't see color.
Well, I'm not racist, but
no, you hear old people go, I don't see color. And it's like you could say I have black friends or I don't see color, as in like I might have friends that might be black, but I'm trying to blindly ignore their culture. And you're fucked either way.
I think that's a perfect time to roll into Juneteenth. But first, we'll read Aubrey's comment about the last segment, which is pretty great. She says, "This is like Bloomberg banning big gulps, as if you can't just buy 2 medium sizes. We also used it in Utah with beer. It just made the beer companies twice as much money."
Exactly. It's prohibition is dumb. And like, I didn't even pull up the article I was talking about because we talked about me having the numbers and stuff. And so before we go on to the next thing, I'm just going to read this. So this is from Yale News. This is from the, like Yale University. And like, this article is based on, because it was in about 2019 when San Francisco banned like vapes or whatever.
Flavored vapes, I believe. I could be wrong about that.
Yeah. And let me see if I can find it real quick.
Any Warriors fans out there can help us out here.
Oh my God, I literally had it in front of my screen, and then I
What happens when you have too many tabs open, Corey Walsh?
doofusly hit the. Yeah, I accidentally moved it. But anyway, so it's Friedman used data on high school students under 18 years of age from the Youth Risk Behavior Surveillance System's 2011 to 2019 school district surveys. Prior to the ban's implementation, past 30-day smoking rates in San Francisco and the comparison school districts were similar and declining. Yet once the flavor ban was fully implemented in 2019, San Francisco's smoking rates diverged from trends observed elsewhere, increasing as the comparison district rates continued to fall. And so what they were saying, I think, I'm actually, that's the summary of what I was looking for before. But so in San Francisco, when they banned flavored vapes, the transition of teen kids switching from vapes to cigarettes doubled compared to surrounding counties where flavored vapes weren't banned.
Yes,
and it's almost like these kids are just trying to be rebels and they just want to get their nicotine and get their cigarette fix. And then it doesn't matter what the government says, they're going to do it. And because the government's getting in the way, they're going back to the more harmful substance instead of the substance that they actually originally wanted to do because it tastes better. It's nicer. When you hit a vape and you smoke a vape and when you're done, your mouth doesn't taste like shit. And you know what I mean? Like I can go on and on and on.
You don't smell like a wet ashtray. Look, this is it. It's like, okay, so you take away the vapes, they just go back to cigarettes. Like, what are you actually accomplishing? Like even let's
you know what you're accomplishing, Dan? You're accomplishing big tobacco's lobbies protecting their the people they're representing's pocketbook. I mean, that's what you're accomplishing.
Fair enough. I mean, I would like to think that the tobacco lobby has lost a lot of power over the years.
You fucking kidding me?
No, I think it has. But the problem is, I think it has. But I also think it was just so powerful to start with that it doesn't seem like it's lost a whole lot. Like it hasn't.
Okay, I see what you're saying. It's like a high water mark to where it's like if the whole town is flooding 8 feet, people that are living in 8 feet of water for 2 months are going to be like, oh, well, fuck, the water receded 6 inches. Thank God we might be getting back to somewhere where we want to be.
But I mean, the other point too is like, let's just pretend for a second. We don't have the data on this, but let's just pretend for a second that cigarettes and vapes are equally as harmful. Because I don't think we're ever going to find. I don't think the data.
Well, if cigarettes and vapes are equally harmful, then it comes down to who has the biggest coffers that can influence the government.
Yeah, and I don't think we're ever going to have
because cigarettes aren't banned and vapes are, so it proves who has the bigger lobbyists.
Oh, well,
does that make sense?
It's a young industry. I don't know why Big Tobacco doesn't just suck it up and get into it. I think they've started to. I believe me, and I'm just talking.
They're going to stem the tide as much as they can until they get their foot on the right. They get their foot on the same footing as the other people.
You mean like big oil and renewables? It's weird.
Yes, it's almost like lobbyists stifle innovation, Dan. It's crazy.
Very strange. I cannot believe we've gotten to this point in our world, Corey Walsh.
In this economy? I just have to throw that out there every once in a while.
So much nuance. You want to discuss Juneteenth? Speaking of,
actually not yet because we're still talking about this ban on tobacco. And
you got more to say? I ran out of stuff to say. Go ahead.
It's insane to me. Oh, so Friedman used data on high school students under 18 years of age from the Youth Risk Behavior Surveillance System 2011 to 2019 school district surveys. Jesus, I butchered that sentence. Let me say it again. Friedman used data on high school students under 18 years of age from the Youth Risk Behavior Surveillance System's 2011-2019 school district surveys. That sounds better, right? Prior to the ban's implementation, past 30-day smoking rates in San Francisco and the comparison school districts were similar and declining. Yet once the flavor ban was fully implemented in 2019, San Francisco's smoking rates diverged from trends observed elsewhere, increasing as the comparison districts rates continued to fall. And it just shows that like kids are everybody is basically gonna do whatever they want to do. And that government And like all we're doing, like when everyone's going to do what they want to do, when the government tries to intervene, we're just criminalizing a certain sector of people of what they want to do based on some arbitrary bullshit that they decide what they think is like against society at the moment.
Would you say, Corey, that nicotine is like guns? It's just kind of here and we're gonna have to deal with it. Some people might get hurt by it. I don't know. Maybe it's a bad correlation. It just came to my brain.
That's gonna be one that's a 20-minute unpack or a 20-minute conversation of unpacking something.
Well,
because you're right. Because then you can go into secondhand smoke, Dan. Again, so we can really
Secondhand smoke, Corey. It's all like straight bullets.
And that, so Aubrey just said tobacco companies own a huge percentage of vape stocks, and that's kind of what I was saying earlier when I said they're just trying to stem the tide while they get their bearings straight and they get into the vape industry, that they're going to stifle small business and fuck small businesses over while they cultivate their own vape industry
and probably make them actually unhealthy.
Yeah, they're going to make them as addictive as possible.
Cheap. Just as cheap as they can make them. They're going to taste like shit. I don't use them anymore, thankfully, but like I did.
I know. I have a lot of respect for you that you told me as I sit here and hit my vape. You told me that one day you were like, fuck this thing, and you threw it in the trash.
Bro, I still suck on these nicotine chiclets though all day. I suck on those all day. So it's not like I've gotten away from the nicotine addiction.
Has there ever been any studies on like the negative health effects of nicotine gum?
All I know is, and I'm not an expert, right? But from the very limited research that I've done is that nicotine itself is not any more harmful to your body than caffeine. It's the delivery system that's the issue. From what I understand, if there's somebody who's done research on this that's a little bit deeper, please.
No, that's fair. That's fair. A Red Bull delivering caffeine to you is way worse than a cup of coffee.
Right. Delivery system, right?
Heroin packaged and delivered by our pharmaceutical industry in a friendly pill called Vicodin or oxycodone is way friendlier than buying heroin on the street and injecting it yourself.
That's debatable.
Nobody understand what I'm saying.
That's debatable.
It's how it's given to you, not what the actual effect is.
Do you have any more numbers? Look, this isn't going to work. It's a stupid idea, especially to me the nicotine limits, right? Just going to make people smoke more cigarettes.
Yeah, no, I'm frustrated that you saw this article that I have that's talking about it, and it's actually from Yale. And then as I'm looking at it, like you said, Corey's got the numbers, and it literally didn't spew one number. Except for the word double. So whatever the word was before that.
Whatever. Corey's got the Yale.
I got the article in front of me, Dan. From Yale. Everyone trusts Yale, right?
Came from the internet. It must be true. I don't know. Just ask the people. Just ask how people feel about the Supreme Court.
Is that where Brett Kavanaugh is from? Did Brett Kavanaugh go to Yale?
That's where they're all from. They're all Ivy League.
Isn't that funny how no one's talking about how Brett Kavanaugh literally had his life threatened, and there was a guy trying out there trying to kill him, and no one's talking about it?
That's because Brett Kavanaugh spent his entire college years going up and down the East Coast doing gang rapes. You didn't know that?
That's because Brett Kavanaugh spent 50 years of his 60-year life literally raping every woman he ever saw.
Not even women, not even just women, men too. From what
raping everyone. Just raping everyone.
Trans women, all of it.
But it is. Do you remember when that shooter went to the Democratic, was it softball or baseball? Oh, no, that was a Republican thing. I'm lying. The baseball shooting.
I don't remember.
But it's funny how when right-wing people go and kill people, it's all over the news. But when left-wing people try to do the same thing, it's talked about for about 24 hours.
Unless it depends what you're watching. You watching Newsmax? Are you watching OAN? Or are you watching Fox News?
That's the most frustrating thing to me, man.
Yeah, it sucks.
That's the most goddamn frustrating thing to me because someone's intent of actually murdering a Supreme Court justice and everything went his way, Brett Kavanaugh would be dead right now.
Yeah.
And no one's talking about it. and he was an extreme leftist, you know, and yet when someone from the right does something, like when they go and they storm the Capitol, it's all over the news.
Your
January
point,
6th.
Your point is that there's a such thing as dangerous leftist extremism.
My point is, Dan, is worthy and unworthy victims. Noam Chomsky, Manufacturing Consent. It's like our Bible at this point. We reference it so many goddamn times. But it's like, yeah, it's like, oh, so my parable would be January 6th, all these people storming the Capitol, right? And we were like, oh man, our democracy was at stake. It's fucked. Like they literally could have just thrown away our whole entire government system. It was a coup attempt, but yet, as somebody who is very, very sympathetic to Black Lives, I'm not gonna say Black Lives Matter because of the fact that we saw what the organization itself has done. But someone who's very sympathetic to the idea that Black lives just want the same justice that you and I get as white males in this society, that we completely ignore the fact that during a BLM protest in Washington, D.C., that we had this, that regardless of whether or not you like him, our sitting president had to go into a bunker because his house was completely surrounded by protesters ready to fuck, like, all chanting, wanting to get in there. And the only thing that was, the only difference is the White House actually has a barrier fence and the Capitol doesn't. And that there was a bunch of people on the left that wanted to go out and literally behead and come after Trump and kill him.
Yeah, your feelings
earlier.
Your feelings don't make the two things different, right? You agree with one, you agree with the other, it doesn't matter. They're
right.
Relatively the same.
Like I said, BLM movement, the actual, like, saying that, like, the intrinsic thing of saying Black Lives Matter, I'm 100% supportive of. The organization,
because it's obvious, Corey. It should be obvious.
Yeah, because the organization itself has proved itself to be such a piece of shit, the same as the NRA, who the NRA is actually all these. That's funny. Side note: everyone on the right who's like, "Oh, the NRA, they're their lobbyists that's protecting us." Guess who's the one who banned automatic weapons? It was the fucking NRA.
They agreed to. They agreed to be okay with it, kind of thing. Yeah.
Guess when, like, as an adult, the only time that, like, my weapons have been truly infringed upon is under a Republican named Donald Trump, where he told me I can't get a bump stock for my AR. Nothing happened under Obama. And what I know. I could give two shits. Like, when it comes to a AR, a semi-automatic, my aim is way better if I just pull the trigger versus just holding it against my shoulder. That's fine. I don't give a shit. But what I'm saying is Republicans constantly are the ones who infringe. The Democrats make big shouts about wanting to infringe, like we got to take care of gun control and stuff like that. But if we're going to talk about the outrage of who we're supposed to be pissed off about, it's the Republicans. Ronald Reagan himself is the one who banned long rifles and a bunch of shit in California because the Black Panthers were militarizing.
And you're talking about establishment Republicans, right?
Well, no, it was Ronald Reagan an establishment Republican when he was the governor of California?
At the time, no. Today, certainly.
Ronald Reagan and Donald Trump have infringed on your rights as a gun owner and my rights as a gun owner more than any Democrat ever has federally. Now, states, it gets a little sticky. There might be certain states where shit has gone real wonky and weird, but federally, it's been Republicans.
Yeah, Donald Trump called for red
and
flag.
That hurts. That hurts Republicans saying that because their cognitive dissonance doesn't want to actually argue that. But
same with this topic, Corey.
That's okay. Right. Yep. Perfect. All right. Now we're literally flipping the script 100%.
We're gonna give some shit to Republicans, and for those who
you know what? I don't even want to give individuals a pass of calling them Republicans.
That's true.
There's a bunch of racists in our country who are upset about Juneteenth for no reason at all, other than that they think that it's hurting their I don't know. I don't understand how Juneteenth hurts anybody.
Juneteenth is so interesting to me because you're right. I would like to walk back what I said about shitting on Republicans as a whole, because I have to tell you that even on social media, the cesspool of social media, I saw plenty of Republicans that were like, I don't understand why Juneteenth hurts your feelings so bad. Like, I'm a Republican or I'm a conservative, and I really don't understand why this is a big deal. And there were actually a lot of them. So you're absolutely right about that. I will say this. When you're talking about Juneteenth, there's a couple different angles I'm going to go with here, and then I'll let you respond, Corey. First of all, I racked my brain because I always like to give people the benefit of the doubt. I always like to try and find a rationalization, and I've seen like these stupid posts about how this country doesn't have 2 Independence Days, or especially this year, which really perpetuates the ignorance, which was, why does it have to come on Father's Day? When really the question should be, why does Father's Day have to be on Juneteenth? But that's a different discussion. And
Father's Day just changes all the time.
That's what I mean. Father's Day,
like Mother's Day. It's like Easter, and it's really funny because like people are like, oh well, Jesus rose after 3 days on this day, but yet that day changes based on the lunar. Oh fuck, what is it? I don't want to butcher this. Easter changes dates because it's based on like the lunar solstice or something like that. And so it's an arbitrary date
with the moon. It's look upable
to where Jesus dies on different days every year. And then his rebirth 3 days later.
I'm
not trying to shit on any religion whatsoever.
No, I just lost my train of thought there because what I was saying was I'm trying to find some sort of rationalization why Juneteenth is like a bad thing. And I can't find one that isn't just utterly...
The first full moon after the vernal equinox.
It was
Michelle Rodriguez nailed it. Yeah, that's what Easter is.
Thank you, Michelle.
It's arbitrary.
Yeah, so
Jesus died on multiple days.
I'm looking for... I'm trying to get this away from Jesus, Corey. I'm looking for ways in which...
You don't love Jesus, Dan? I'm sorry. I'll stop.
I'm looking for ways in which Juneteenth...
Jesus is coming! Hide the eggs! Go ahead.
I'm looking for ways in which you could possibly look at Juneteenth as a bad thing without there being racist undertones. And I don't use the word racist very liberally. I don't call people racists very often. But like, if you're pissed about Juneteenth, I cannot find a reason why it's not racist. But on the other side of that coin, there is an undertone to why Juneteenth was started that is like super dishonest, because it was a very, in my opinion, empty gesture by Joe Biden for identity politics reasons.
And it sucks, doesn't it? Because it's a very solemn actual date.
And it should
be, it was used for politics.
And for the assholes that want to say this country doesn't have 2 Independence Days, unless it fucking does.
Well, I think you answered your own question, Dan.
Yeah, what did I? Where?
Kind of. So a lot of people not necessarily upset with the idea of Juneteenth. They saw through the facade that the Juneteenth holiday was a pandering thing for marginalized communities.
So then why don't they ever say that? I don't hear them say
because they don't know how to articulate that, because they're in the same lot as people on the left who just blindly follow Biden, saying that he's a great president because, well, Biden nixed the deficit by 1.2 trillion. It's like, yeah, that's really easy to do when you just stop handing out trillions of dollars to the stock market and to people. And sure. And so I guess what I'm getting back to is like, I want to give people the benefit of the doubt that it's like a lack of knowledge and a lack of history, knowing what Juneteenth is, versus being enshrouded in the whole identity politics of it. There might be people, like, granted, 100%, there are people who just fucking hate black people. And they're just like, fuck Juneteenth, fuck civil rights, fuck Martin Luther King Day, whatever.
Why?
But there's other people, because and when I say what I think, you answered your own question, is we're on the side of the black community. We're like, we understand, like, yeah, no, you guys have been fucked. Gerrymandering, stop and frisk, redlining, like there's so many systematic things that I can sit here and name for the next 5 minutes that have fucked the black community, right? But people who just see Juneteenth as this arbitrary thing that we do, that we know that it was just, it's just pandering to the community. People who already don't understand that and then see it as something that's pandering to the community are going to immediately go, yeah, fuck this. This is just a political stint. And they're not wrong, technically.
The problem with
But
that,
let's really talk about what Juneteenth is. Let's break it down.
That's the problem is like, you can look at Joe Biden making Juneteenth a holiday as this disingenuous pandering gesture, I guess.
Which it was.
It absolutely was.
But in the same breath, Juneteenth is a very important day because that is the day. What was it? June 19th, like 18. It was, I don't know the exact. When did the Civil War end? Because we're talking about 2 years after the Civil War.
It ended in 63.
Okay, I thought that's what it was. I didn't want to say it. So in 65, June 19th, 1865, in Texas, is the date that anyone who lived in America became a free citizen. And that's a super important date because, let's be honest, there was millions of black people in our country who did not understand, not even realize or know, but experience the freedom that the rest of America experienced.
Well, and that goes back to the Independence Day argument, right? Like, I saw that fucking idiot from Newsmax or OAN, that Jack Provapenis Selleck guy,
Probasek or whatever.
Whatever the hell his name is, this country doesn't have 2 Independence Days. Yeah, it kind of does.
It does. It absolutely does.
And
having a second Independence Day doesn't take away from the first Independence Day, because the first Independence Day is what set the foundation for the precedent to create the second fucking Independence Day, because in America, we were the first fucking country to free slaves when all the rest of the West civilization still had them. And we had a war about it. And that tells you how at odds we were about this situation, that it wasn't settled in a fucking bullshit room with a bunch of people with ties who had no fucking connection to any of these people. It wasn't settled there. It was settled with blood.
I've seen so many horrible arguments about, like, there. It's so interesting because, like, I feel like when I was looking at Twitter conversations, I would say definitely during the Trump administration, when Trump would like invoke Lincoln, and like you would find people on the far left finding reasons to shit on Abraham Lincoln. And now
only because Trump invoked him.
Exactly. And now you have people that are like talking about, hey, Republicans freed the slaves. And like you see right wingers on Twitter now shitting on Lincoln. Like, okay, I guess everybody just hates Lincoln now. I guess we should just take him off of Mount Rushmore. Although no president should be on Mount Rushmore. That's Native American
in the first place. Yeah, I love how Teddy Roosevelt slipped himself in there when, like, just because they was doing it during him.
He was a great conservationist.
Okay, so I'm gonna read this whole little thing by Spike Cohen, who honestly has been turning into a small, like, I've become like a fanboy for him.
Libertarian Jesus, isn't he?
He is. He's the libertarian Jesus.
Well, isn't he a Jew? So yeah, that works.
Yeah, I don't know if he's a carpenter, but he's Jewish, so it works. So he says, this is actually on June 19th. So this is 4 days ago. But he says, today is Juneteenth, the day that black slaves in Texas were informed that they were supposed to have already been emancipated 2.5 years earlier. If this surprises you, it's good that you're reading this. Even after this official proclamation on June 19th, 1865, it still took as long as 3 more years for the final slaves to be informed of that they should have been freed. When a horse thief was hanged in 1868 and his slaves were let go. But back to that proclamation. At the end of it, it says, the freed men are advised to remain quietly at their present homes and work their wages. They are informed that they will not be allowed to collect them at military posts and that they will not be supported in idleness either there or elsewhere. So after nearly 250 years of being used for hard labor like cattle, treated like property, subjected to endless abuse, and robbed of their names, their culture, their entire way of life, they are told that they should just stay where they are and not be lazy. We see a similar treatment to this day by authority figures towards the most marginalized among us. They are told that they are lazy when in fact occupation licensing laws, the war on drugs, and other barriers to entry have rendered many of them unable to move ahead in life, having to choose between abject poverty or a life of crime. They are told not to be violent, while the state criminalizes them as early in their lives as possible, herds them into prisons to do free labor to profit the state governments and multi-billion-dollar prison labor contracting corporations. They are told to stay where they are and not to resist, and to do as they are told, while they watch their loved ones being casually murdered by the people who presumed authority over them. They are told, essentially, that it's kind of their fault, or at least that their actions haven't helped. This is gaslighting and victim blaming. Nothing more and nothing less. But that's not what this day is about. Juneteenth is a celebration of the final moment that a people whose ancestors were brought here in chains were told that the process of their unshackling had finally begun. It is a process that continues on to this day right now in cities around the world, and it is an honor to help tell their story to others. Happy Juneteenth. And it's absolutely true, man. It is. It's a second Independence Day for a large sector of the people that live in this country who claim to be free every day.
And it was well said. It was well articulated, as Spike always is. And
even though I butchered reading it.
Oh, that's fine. Yeah, well, they weren't your words; they were his, and you fucked them up.
It happens. Cheers to that.
Look, at the end of the day, it's like, dude, it's a holiday. Like, if you don't want to celebrate it, don't. If you're racist enough to actually think that this day is meaningless and it shouldn't exist,
it's funny you say. Wait, I'm going to cut you off real quick, and I'm sorry, but like when you said that, like it's a holiday, and if you don't want to celebrate it, don't. Mm-hmm. That's literally what we tell Jewish people about Christmas.
And you know what they do? They just
celebrate their own.
They just don't, because.
But we don't shit on them and try to arrest them and like call them racist words on the internet because they decide to celebrate their own thing.
Last I checked, there's not Jewish people out there shitting on Christmas all the time. They might make jokes because Jewish people are funny, but I don't like ever see them like actually shitting on Christmas.
But I've never seen a black person shitting on the way of human life of a white person. It's always a white person that does it.
Why do we got to celebrate this? We're trying to Kwanzaa Christmas. These horrible people. They're just disgusting. It's a joke. Relax. The worst. A really, really bad joke, but either way.
I'm just tired of the world not being as simple as I want it to be.
In this economy? Celebrating Juneteenth and this. And look, here's the, you know what's funny? The last point I'll make about Juneteenth is the one relatively accurate argument against Juneteenth that I saw. It's still stupid, but it's definitely accurate. It's like, well, the corporations are just going to take advantage of this, start selling stuff.
Absolutely.
You mean like every other fucking holiday?
You mean like Christmas and Easter? Yeah. like when Christmas starts getting promulgated, like what, at like October 30, like what, 2 weeks before Halloween, you start seeing Christmas fucking commercials? You mean to tell me that, oh no,
Memorial Day sale.
We might see a commercial on June 1st talking about equality.
Oh God, what was the other one I heard?
Point to the spot on the dollar where Juneteenth hurt you, Dan.
I heard. Oh no, the stupid trope about slavery is so long ago. Why can't we just let it go? Why can't we just let it go? I don't know. The 4th of July was a long time ago. Maybe we shouldn't celebrate that fucking holiday either.
Right.
Saying it's just ass. Right. Why can't we just let it go?
Yeah, Labor Day has way less of a meaning than fucking Juneteenth does.
I don't see color, Corey.
Everyone's excited about the day off.
Oh man, we got to talk about what is a woman, Corey. Unless you had more to add about Juneteenth. Oh wait, you want to do a monologue first?
Am I doing my monologue before or after?
I don't know. How do you feel? I haven't read your monologue.
Okay. I guess I'll do it.
Happy
To add context to the conversation before we dive into this
I'll put this banner up.
very toxic situation, should I read my monologue first?
I just put the banner up there to know what it's about.
A good review of the Daily Wire's What is a Woman?
Good faith review.
A good faith review. We're
Very
doing our
controversial.
best.
We're going to have some controversy here.
So, I don't know if any of our listeners actually know what is a woman is about, and I'm gonna pass the buck off onto you to explain what that shit show was going on.
While you get your monologue ready. So, What is a Woman was actually, from a production standpoint, a very well-made documentary by the Daily Wire and by Matt Walsh. Daily Wire, obviously super controversial, super right-wing, super conservative. And the two biggest personalities on the Daily Wire, if you're not familiar, are Ben Shapiro, who I'm sure most of you have heard of if you listen to this show, and also Matt Walsh. Two guys that Corey and I vehemently disagree with on most occasions. However, two guys that we think articulate themselves well. They're not idiots. They know what they're doing. We think they often pander to the fear bases of conservatives.
Yeah, we think they're too smart. We think that they are too smart to where they should know better to what they're doing, that they are dumbing down their own IQs for a quick buck.
Yes, that's how we feel about it. However, we did watch this film, and Corey's going to deliver his monologue first, and then we are going to talk about what we thought about this film, the good, the bad, the ugly. I can already tell you there are people listening to this podcast, watching the show, that are going to turn us off just because we even bothered to watch this film. But that's what we do here.
That's exactly what we do here. And I had something to say, but I forgot. I'm just going to read my monologue.
Okay, get after it.
All right. Oh no, what I was gonna say was real quick. Dan, I added you back to the stream.
I'm still here.
What I was gonna say real quick was, like, after this, I'm pretty over the whole transgender conversation, that we need to let it lie. I want to put this on record that after this, I'm done. We beat this to the pulp, and you and I, even though, like, I get that, like, society is still going to argue about this for years on end, that this episode is going to be the one that we reference to when we talk about, when anyone asks us how we feel about transgender rights. It's just like, just go back and listen to episode 62322. Like,
unless we get a voice that's not ours. We may have a guest on.
Yeah. Yep.
That may happen, but
I'm just over it.
I'm with you. I'm
over it because I've settled this so well in my brain that I'm just so, like, in my own personal bias, that I've settled this so well in my brain that I'm just, like, pissed off that the rest of the people just don't get it.
It's going to be sad. Let's put this thing to bed, Corey Walsh.
Let's do it. It's with this right here. Here's the final nail in the coffin. You ready? Monologue 62322. I'm going to drink some whiskey. We're all on a spectrum of sorts, from femininity to masculinity. This can be argued down to a biological point of estrogen versus testosterone. This science, coupled with the ever-expanding freedom of expression in society, has led people to find happiness in their own personal journeys. This all, of course, is an inward feeling or sense. After all, when I say happiness, that word is subjective. Personally, a glass of bourbon and an old Marty Robbins vinyl would be the retort if asked if I could describe the feeling of happiness. A marginalized bliss that 99% of you would disagree and find repulsive, but I digress. This feeling of happiness, subjective, although universal, of course, is an inward feeling or sense. One that supersedes the physical body you or I live in. A body that one's soul, so to speak, recognizes as something they aren't attached to. As evidenced by the message, if anyone can be a woman or a man, that it's a spectrum. This body isn't theirs. The body itself is something they aren't comfortable with, a sort of meat suit. So if it's a show if they don't like, why not modify it? Some people do that and express that superficially by changing the outside of the body to reflect how they feel. Something that makes them comfortable in the very least as we collectively watch the sun rise and sink day after day. In most cases, it should be left at that, but we seem to cut across the grain of what our founding fathers intended in regard to personal liberty enjoyed in a utopia of, by, and for the people. We try to legislate each other, box out anyone that from a different cloth, belittle, demean, and straight up outlaw anything that makes us uncomfortable. Now, I don't think people are dumb. A trans woman knows they have to get their prostate checked. A trans man knows he has a higher chance of cervical cancer and will go through menopause. They don't need to be reminded of that by the people they don't know, smugly asking disingenuous questions like, "What is a woman?" reminding them of an insecurity they are trying to overcome. Where the dart has to land on the board for the sake of humanity is accepting people for what they want to be, accommodating even, but the reciprocation has to be that even if they are in a show they completely reject, that shell is still an organism that has been engineered by billions of years of evolution, and no matter how much we accept, embrace, and even love their truths, the body they are in has been designed by the biggest truth teller, nature. Nature in all its brutality. And to think we as humans are above it in any sort of way is the biggest folly of all. In the very least, that's a truth we should be able to agree on. And so it's just, I'm at this point where we need to come to this, there needs to be if we want to talk about transgender people and people are completely repulsed against it, there needs to be a common ground where there's a truth and reality that both people's realities can agree with, and that the body that somebody is in, regardless of someone accepts it or rejects it, that body itself is still this mechanism that they're going to use to physically do things throughout the world, whether it's sports, military, lifting things, working in a shop. Biologically, we know that men and women are different. But at the same time, as a society, each down to the intrinsic person, that whether it's me or you, when we talk about our bodies, I ask you in an objective sense, like let's say you hurt your arm. The next day I ask you, how's your arm? And you say my arm in a possessive statement, to where we already get the idea. So like you say my arm in a possessive statement, to where subconsciously everybody here is basically in this train of thought that it's like there's this weird thing inside of us that's driving us. It's our personality, our ego. You can talk about neurons, chemical things. We all have this weird thing inside of our bodies that we disassociate ourselves from our physical bodies itself, and that trans people are doing the same exact thing, and they're treating their body the same way anyone else is. It's just uncomfortable for society, and that we need to accept people of what they think when, like, based on the chemical basic, like trying to be objective as possible, the chemical balance in their brain. Some people get feminine, more estrogen, some people get more testosterone. Whatever they feel like in their body is definitely going to be different from this show that they're wearing. And even as us, as straight white males, we still do the same exact fucking thing when we talk about how my body, like, oh, you see this scar? Yeah, I fucked my arm up. Even though this fuck up is literally making it to where I can't rotate my wrist. And I like, oh yeah, I have metal on my shoulder because I fucked my shoulder up. And it's still my body. Like, this is my body. I'm literally using this thing to navigate through the world every single day. But we all, whether we're straight, gay, or anything, we all disassociate ourselves from our body. We all say, oh, well, the brain is the most complicated thing in the world. And the thing that says that is the brain. You know what I mean? So it's like we disassociate our soul, like I said, so to speak, from our bodies. And so these people feel something that's completely different than what this physical thing that they're just walking around in. And then, like, based on biology, some people get more estrogen, some people get more testosterone. So it makes sense. And we have to understand. I think we have to come from a place of more understanding, but we also should expect the people who want us to come to them with more understanding, that regardless of how you feel inside that meat shell, I'm like the meat suit, like the body.
Yeah.
The body you're in, regardless of you reject it or accept it, that body is still designed to do a certain thing, whether you're a man or a woman. And there has to be a middle ground that we all come to. But you have to be a real asshole to not accept someone who is inside of that meat shell, deciding that, like, I don't feel comfortable here.
Well, I think you and I are in. You and I think probably most of our listeners, at least the ones that actually listen and don't just call us libtards or right-wing Nazis, I think we're all in agreement that a human being can do whatever the fuck they want. I mean, it's just the libertarian attitude, right? The liberty point of anything. You can do whatever makes you feel more comfortable within your own body, right? Like we all, and it goes. It's like you said in the beginning, it's kind of on a spectrum, right? Like, I don't think anybody, it's really, really rare that you find a person that looks in the mirror and says, wow, I'm perfect. And it's like, where do you fall on that spectrum? Is it just like, oh shit, maybe I could lose a couple pounds, or maybe I don't.
How many people, and that's the thing, is like when you talk about the spectrum, how many people do you think wake up and look in the mirror and say, wow, I'm perfect? What percentage do you think that is?
I think it's almost nobody. I don't even think
that's what I'm getting at when I say this. Yeah. Like,
I don't even think narcissists feel that way. They know something.
I'm honestly, like, I know I'm an attractive guy. I like to flex it. I really like to flex it. Like, and I do. And I know it's a cockiness. I know it's a narcissistic trait. That's a very negative trait. But like, whenever I'm around people, like whenever there's the opportunity and they say something like that's a slip, and I'm like, oh, what do you mean? And like, I got work the other day. Someone said like, oh yeah, no, I need you over here. And it's just like, everybody needs me. And it's silly when we talk about the narcissistic aspect, but I lost my train of thought.
That's okay. I got you.
That's okay.
Look,
Pick it up where I left off.
We all agree that like you can do whatever the hell you want with your body. Now, when it comes to this movie,
Bright Eyes gave us a statistic. Bright Eyes, is that right? 1.13%.
He had
are the people who are actually comfortable in their skin.
I think he made up a number,
but it actually sounds about right.
Yeah, I mean it does, because I think my nose is too big. I gotta lose a couple pounds. I gotta tell you what I think's weird about myself. Everybody feels.
I wish my biceps were a little bit bigger. Dude, wait. Did you just say you think your nose is too big?
Yeah. Look at it. Look at this thing from the side, man.
Did you see my fucking schnoz?
It's hitting the wall.
Mine's twice the fucking size as yours. And I'm way more cocky than you. I'm thinking that every single woman out here that can open their legs wants Corey Walsh.
Are you Donald Trump now?
No, I don't grab women by their pussies, dude.
Well, not anymore.
I expect the women to come to me with their legs spread open.
But anyway, with regards to this film, right? We both watched it, and it does pertain to your monologue. It actually inspired you to write your monologue.
Yeah, it was, because my monologue originally I was going to write one about traveling on a train.
So my feelings are this about What Is a Woman. Here's what I'll say. You go into this film, first of all, production's really well done. There's actually some kind of humorous parts to it. The big takes that I take out of it are number one, Matt Walsh has an agenda in this film, right? He's trying to make not even necessarily trans people, but
he's trying to trivialize them and make them look silly.
But not even necessarily the trans people themselves, because he and the people at the Daily Wire look at trans people as if they have a mental disorder, right? They do have some kind of like outside the box empathy for them in a weird way. I mean, you might look at that as if that's like really condescending, and I can understand why you would have.
Okay. Okay. So you're saying that their view is condescending because they look at the trans community and want to pat them on the head and say,
Right,
"Oh,
right.
you poor thing, we need to
Right.
help you."
You poor thing, you have a mental disorder. And the other thing that this film to me is trying to point out is it's really calling out like the almost like this like industrialized gender identity part of society where it's just made its way all through academia, and it's become kind of this chic thing for kids, like if they don't feel good about themselves, oh hey, just become trans. And there are parts of this film where I watch it and I go, he does make some decent points. The problem I have with it, and I think you have the same problem, is that I don't always feel like he's doing it in good faith. In fact, most of the time I don't feel like he's doing it in good faith. But the questions that he asks to these certain people in academia, and they just can't answer them. Now you can look at it like he's just asking gotcha questions, and I can see that, but I think that's oversimplified. Like when he just simply asks, "What is a woman?" and somebody with like a PhD in gender studies can't answer the question.
Right.
It's interesting to me. It's
And
interesting.
that's what I was kind of getting at. It's like he's coming at these people who are in a environment where they have, like, we talk like the doctors he talks to and stuff. They're in an environment where they have friends who are a part of these communities. And to just make them lambast them with these ridiculous questions, you can see them stutter and stumble just to try to answer these questions, but not offend their friends.
Right. But I think that's part of the point that he's trying to make too, Corey, which is like, you're more concerned about, this is Matt Walsh's view. This is not me speaking.
No, this is the Ben Shapiro view of facts don't care about your feelings.
Exactly. Facts don't care about your feelings. Now, whether or not those are actual facts, that's not me speaking, but that's the point that Matt Walsh is trying to make in the film.
That I tried to drive home in the last paragraph of a monologue. Like, and it's something that I've tried to drive home in so many episodes at this point. That, like, if somebody transitions and they're a full-grown adult and they're making a decision on their own.
Go ahead.
And they say, "Well, I'm a woman now."
Okay.
It takes a real special asshole to say, "No, fuck you. I know you 10 years ago. You were a man. Fuck off."
Yeah, I agree.
You know what I mean?
I agree. The controversial part of this film is when we're talking about sports and we're talking about children. I think
those are the two sticking points for me, man.
But
that's it.
And that's the Abigail Schreier point. It's like the fact that we can't have this conversation about children getting puberty blockers and children getting surgeries done on them. And I've heard all the arguments. I've heard all the people on Twitter saying, well, actually only 1.24% of children actually get a surgery. Doesn't matter. When it's being done at all, my thought is, in what other walk of life do we look at a young child between the ages of, it doesn't even matter, let's just say 4 and 15 or 16, and we say to them, here's this thing that's going to change the way your life is lived for the rest. This is going to make an irreversible change to your life. Here you go. Just make it on your own. In what other walk of life do we say that to children other than gender identity? I think it's something that it's okay to talk about.
Right. And that was one thing that was actually like super important. I think that was a part of this thing. The guy who was, it's a guy. It's a guy. He transitioned. He's a man. If I'm going to follow the premise of what I'm saying about how I don't want to be an asshole and talk about people and dead name them and things like that. His name, I forget his name, but before he transitioned, he was a woman. His name was Kelly. And then he transitioned to a man. And so as a fully transitioned trans person, he was talking about the negative effects of the surgeries. And at what point, where is this line so blurred that the trans community is attacking their own to where someone who fully transitioned, like
Scott Nugent?
Superficially, if nobody told me that was a trans person, I would have bumped into him in the supermarket and I'd be like, "Oh, sorry, dude."
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, you know what I mean? Like, yeah, like he was a fucking man superficially, but internally he was still facing demons, the same demons as someone who hasn't transitioned.
And then
And he was talking about the negative effects of this. And I think that the negative effects of these surgeries are important, and that, like, I'm not transphobic.
right. They should be
I'm
discussed.
100% removing all of the gates for someone who wants to transition and somebody who thinks that they're in the wrong body, to give them the space to, like, not only be comfortable but vocalize that. I also think we need to really talk about the negative effects of the fact that at 7 to 10 years after someone gets a transition surgery, that 7 to 10 years after someone gets a transition surgery, suicide rates skyrocket. I need to talk about how Lupron, the drug that's pushed on kids to help them suppress hormones, and they call it reversible when it's not. It's the same drug that they use to castrate pedophiles.
That's
And
true. That's true. That's all in the film. Matt Walsh says all of that, and it's all true. It's all
right.
real.
And so those things helped me, like, solidify my certain apprehensions towards this. But most of it kind of, like, upset me because of the fact that when it's a full-grown adult, let them make their own goddamn decisions about their
100%.
life.
Yep, 100%.
Sports, like, on the macro scale, sports when it comes to society, it's very trivial. But on the micro scale, it's also something that is, like, very based on sex.
No, but Corey,
And that nobody wants to talk about the fact that, like, transgender women who were born as men and let their bodies evolve and adapt as men based on biology, that are millions years old, join women's sports, that even as trivial as these sports are, transgender men are coming in and they're negating biological cis women from getting scholarships to go to school because there's men, and we can argue whether or not it was good faith and bad faith, and it might have been a man who was really, really, really good, but wasn't good enough to a man's standards, but could supersede a woman's standards in sports ridiculously. That we need to look at this, and we need to, if gender is a specter, if gender is on the spectrum,
Phil Spector?
Yeah, no, gender is on the spectrum, then there needs to be a basis that simple biology shows that the anatomy of a man's body and a woman's body are very, what's the word? There's no nuance to it. It's very, I can't think of the word.
They're just obvious
binary.
Yeah, they're just obvious.
Man's and women's bodies are very binary, based on billions of years of engineering. That as a society, we always talk about how, oh, we're above animals, we're above this, you know, like humans talk about how nature, like we act like we're above nature. We have this weird ego to where humans and their identities, we think we're separate, even though we're the same as nature, as evidenced by COVID, that, like, a simple virus can really knock out a shit ton of us. We're on this weird sort of ego trip to where we think we're above nature, to where, like, all of the other animals who are based on the same composition are the same as us. Like, when it comes to a lion or a fucking rat or anything, like, it's DNA. Like, it's DNA. Like,
yeah,
you're programmed a certain way, and us as humans are as well. But we have a conscious, and you can call it stoned ape theory. I don't know. And people talk about how our consciousness deviated from our DNA of, like, our instincts and stuff like that. And sure, that's a part of our society. We are conscious that we have this weird, like, ego identity going on in our heads that's completely separate from our human bodies, but we're still trapped in these human bodies. And that you can identify as anything because you can use cognitive dissonance, you can use science, you can use anything to explain away any sort of thing that, like, negatively affects your opinion. And like, if you came to me tomorrow, Dan, and you said, I'm a woman, I'd accept that.
I'm not going to do that.
But I'm saying I'd accept it. But what I'm saying is like the identity and like the chemical balance and the most basic functions of the brain when it comes to chemicals and neuron functions and stuff like that. It's different and it's completely separate from the physical body that you're in. And I will vehemently say that I accept who you are based on your identity and based on who you are. But that meat shell that you're in, your identity can be anything you want. The body you're in that you're using to maneuver through this earth on this rock that's just fucking hurling through earth at thousands of miles an hour, doing our best. And that even though whatever you think you're experiencing the same sunrise and sunset as someone who's comfortable in their skin, you're still in a body that was designed by biology to either do one thing or the other.
Corey, that was the most epic drunken rant that I have ever heard.
It was good though, right? Did it make sense? I am drunk. But did it make sense?
Everybody,
I feel like I was on such a good goddamn roll right there.
You were. You repeated yourself a few times, but it is what it is.
But does it make sense?
It does make sense. And it actually
it's like if we're going to accept the idea that like, because right now there's like the wave behind transgenderism and the LGBT community is spirituality. That's the next one. That's the next big counterculture wave. And I'm telling you, that's what's about to happen. And when we talk about the idea that we all are just energy moving through space and things like that, and it's like, okay, then let's talk about that. Let's talk about how we're all just energy and things. So it's like, I'm sorry that the dice of nature and like how fucked up it is, the dice landed to where you're in the body that you don't agree with. I accept you as a woman. I accept you as someone who is upset that they're in the wrong body that they are. But when it comes down to things like kids and when it comes down to things like sports, it doesn't matter who you think you are. It's like putting yourself in a sports car of a 4-cylinder fucking Ford Fusion that I drive right now or a fucking Dodge Viper. And it doesn't matter who you think you are inside of that vehicle. That vehicle is designed to do different things. And we have to accept that and also accept the fact that people's souls and identities are different than the meat skins that they're stuck in, I guess.
Very fair. Very fair. I don't remember what the hell I was going to say next.
I don't know. I went off on a real tangent there. I probably talked for like 5 minutes because I'm really trying to drive home the point that it's like, I accept the trans community. I get it. I get the idea that you're fucking thinking you're fucked like because you're stuck in the wrong thing, and that like we all, and it's just something that we've always all done. We talk about, oh, my body, oh, my brain, oh yeah, my eyes are fucking up. I need glasses. Oh yeah, I put a tattoo on my arm. Like if people talk about their bodies as a possessive, objective thing.
Tattoos are a great example, right? Like a tattoo.
Right.
A tattoo.
Piercings, tattoos, haircuts, dyeing your fucking hair. How trivial do you want to get, Dan?
A tattoo artist won't touch a child, right? Why would a transition? I don't even know what they would be called, but why would a transition surgeon touch a child?
Because the trans community is the first marginalized community that has a monetary value based on it.
Well, that's true. And that's another thing that Scott Nugent said, $70,000 a pop. It's at what did he say? Five children's hospitals. Now, we haven't looked into that. I don't know how true that is. I don't know how many kids are actually getting, bottom surgeries or even top surgeries. But I all I know is you see the stuff on TikTok all the time, at least of the top surgeries. So they are happening.
Oh, I also, yep. No, you're right.
Yeah.
And so now I'm looking at my notes for what is a woman, and to top it off, I really want to say I'm really pissed that Matt Walsh has the same sunglasses as me. In that first scene, he literally had the same exact Ray-Bans. I think it's these ones right here.
He's fishing.
These Ray-Bans are the same exact goddamn Ray-Bans.
And he's kind of got a
in the open scene.
His is
and he has the same haircut, and he has the same goddamn beard, and the same goddamn last name as me.
I was gonna say, do you have the same fishing rod?
No, I don't. We don't have the same fishing rod. I have a very nice fishing rod that does not be the same as his.
That actually catches fish?
No, I didn't say that. I'm a terrible fisherman, but my rig is just a lot more expensive than his.
Well, that's you rub it in his face. Why don't you? You know what you should
I
do?
will. I will. I'll tell you. Fuck off. Well, actually, no, I can't because he said it in his fucking thing. He goes, "I'm not a good fisherman."
Dude, do you really?
And it's like, and I saw him. I'm like, neither am I, homie. Like, and I got that. I was like, I love fishing, but I don't ever catch fish.
You realize what we have to do now, don't you? We have
We
to
have to-
groom. We have to groom up your beard. We have to dye your hair a little bit, and we have to dress you up like Matt Walsh and take you out in public.
Should we just try to make me look as much? Should we literally do what the guy from from Bum Fights did on Dr. Phil to
What?
Matt Walsh? Because like the guy in Bum Fights when they tried to bring him out, so the guy in Bum Fights is literally just he made a bunch of money on just paying a bunch of fucking mentally ill and substance like addicted people fight
Like,
each other, and he recorded it and he put it online.
Right, bum fights. Yeah.
Yeah, bumfights.com. Remember that shit? 2005 internet was wild. And so when Dr. Phil tried to call him out, the fucking guy showed up with a wig cap on and everything, and he was dressed as Dr. Phil.
We have to dress you up like Matt Walsh.
And then debate Matt Walsh.
Yes. Debate Matt Walsh as Matt Walsh.
It's like, well, we don't have the same first name, but we're probably related. So listen, brother.
Listen here, brother. Do you have anything else to add? Because the last thing I'm going to say is, since this is the last time we're going to have, this probably isn't the last time we're going to talk about gender identity, but it's going to be the last time for a while. We're going to take a nice break here. Look, kids and sports are a conversation that need to be had, but having that conversation doesn't make you a transphobe. And if it does, in your eyes, you and I, we're probably not going to have a good faith, nuanced conversation. And I think,
honestly, next week I want to tap into this and have another 20-minute conversation, but I have to pee so bad.
Are we going to bounce? We can bounce. Tell the people where to find us.
I don't know. What else do we need?
All we had that we didn't get to was our newest troll on Facebook, but that we can wait for that. We had Trudeau and Newsom, and then I think that was it.
Dude, this is the first time that I ever feel like we have to cut short because I have to pee. It's usually you.
We'll be fine. We're almost an hour and a half in.
We'll be fine. Well, we're good.
Just search @libservative or @libservativepod on podcast platforms and social media, and you'll find us. We're not that hard to find.
No, okay. All right. So real quick,
Go ahead.
Libservative Podcast.
He's gonna get it right.
We're on all social media. What'd you just say?
You're gonna get it right. You're gonna get it 100% right.
Maybe not, dude. I literally my back teeth are floating. Libservative Podcast is found on all your social media and podcast platforms. We are found on Facebook at Libservative Podcast. We are found on Twitter, Instagram, and Twitch at Libservative Pod. We are found on TikTok at Libservative Podcast. If you want to read our transcripts for our monologues, that's on libservative.podcast or libservativepodcast.wordpress.com. You can reach out to us directly at libservativepodcast or libservativepod@gmail.com. Like, follow, and share, and join the like, follow, and share to join today, to join the conversation now. With new posts, what do I say typically on our posts? New posts daily. With new posts daily and new episodes weekly, join today to be a part of the conversation now.
Don't be a dick. He's been Corey Walsh.
And he has been Dan Griffin.
This has been Libservative. And we're out of here.